Well, hello, it's that time again. Hello there, I hope everybody's alright. I was going to play a bit of a tune. See if I can play it off my phone just to get us introduced. Ba 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 da ba ba. I think it's supposed to sound like the Foos. I think so anyway. Not that one. This one. Hey Tinky darling, how are you doing? You alright? Those little flowers, cute. There you go. Yeah, I think that's supposed to sound like the Foo Fighters. It has a bit of a Foo Fightery feel about it. Right, okay. Let me get this PowerPoint open. Got some pictures. Hey, welcome. Hiya, Margie. How you doing, sweetheart? You all right today? It's been a day. It's Friday the 13th, 2020. Hi, Sharon, darling. And we made it. We made it. So far. But there's not much of the day left here in the UK, so fingers crossed. That's as far as it goes. I want my coffee here as well. Look, spot the difference. Right. Okay. I'm fine. It's been a week. This week's been a year. This day's been a week. That's basically how life is right now. But yeah, I'd rather be busy than not busy, because there's a reason for the phrase, the devil makes work for idle thumbs. That's all I'm saying. So yes, just to cover a few things I wanted to talk about. I've been reliably informed that people are being unsubscribed from the channel. It's not just mine, it's everybody's. Hiya, Jill. It's everybody's channels. And so just do check if you're subscribed. If you see a community post or anything, do check that you're still subscribed to the channel. We are having a live tomorrow afternoon in the UK. I think it'll probably be morning, US side, where effectively we're just going to get together and talk about how awful Chris Watts is, because I'm sick of seeing things where we've got a collection of people getting together to drag the victim of that murder, and nobody seems to be dissing him. So let's even out that playing field a little bit. So please do come. If you've got anything to say about that awful person, please do come along. You're more than welcome. Let's roast Watts, basically. That's what it's for. Vent. Because everybody's sick of saying this stuff, I know. Anybody with morality is. So come and vent. Bear in mind that the man is a convicted murderer. It is a statement of fact. So, don't feel bad. I don't. Okay. So, arguably one of the most famous serial killers in history passed away today. His name is Peter Sutcliffe, and he was known as the Yorkshire Ripper by the British tabloids. His real name is Peter William Coonan. He took his mother's name, and he basically, he was just a bad man. So we're going to talk about him a little bit and talk about that case a little bit, because I know quite a few people don't know who he is. So I'm just going to add that to the stream there. Okay. And hope that this works. So there we go. So we're going to talk about it a bit. Be aware that I won't be looking at the chat all of the time. So, I mean, I'll be able to see you, but I'm trying to endeavour to do both. So don't worry. Okay. Yeah, it's quite a notorious case here in the UK. And I mean, I was very young at the time. This man started murdering women before I was even born. And it was quite a scary time in the sort of the early 80s, like late 70s, early 80s. And even I have memories of women being afraid to go out in the Yorkshire area. So we're just going to start from the beginning. So he was born on the 2nd of June, 1946, and obviously passed away today. He's 74 years old. That's a canny run by most people's consideration. And what had happened with him is he'd had a heart attack a couple of weeks ago, and he wasn't so well, and he came down with COVID-19. They took him to Durham Hospital. Well, I call it Durham Hospital because it's not far from me. And he refused the treatment for the COVID and subsequently passed away. So really, at least he had a bit of a choice in his passing, which is more than the ladies he attacked did. So he's been in HMP Franklin for quite some time. He'd previously been in Broadmoor Secure Hospital for paranoid schizophrenia. And you know, there's no question that he was an ill man and his behaviour was irregular. He did, UK's Ted Bundy, only not as handsome, has to be said. But he's not bad looking. It's not about looks, really, I suppose. But he's like, yeah, it was quite. He doesn't look the kind, and I think, to be honest, I don't know when I'm going to stop saying that, because more and more, it's kind of the opposite. You expect the monster and you don't get the monster. You get the normal fella. And that's why these people are so dangerous. So his sentence was made a whole life term in 2010. That was when he was released from Broadmoor. He was transferred to prison, and he made an appeal at that juncture, which of course was declined. And he was transferred, he was transferred to HMP Franklin in County Durham in 2016. He died at the University Hospital of North Durham, like I said, just down the road. And that's only 3 miles from the prison, so he didn't have far to go. So like I said, he had a suspected heart attack a couple of weeks ago, not feeling very well, came down with COVID, went to hospital and refused treatment for coronavirus. And that's how he's come to pass away. So the relatives have spoken out, including the relative of Wilma McCann, his first victim from 1975. Her son had said the attention he's had over the years, the continuous news stories that we've suffered over the years, there is some form of conclusion to that. Yes, kiss an ugly person, you'll be safe. Usually, yes, usually. So let me just show you the gentleman in question. I can click back on my PowerPoint because my England's not very good today. There we go. So that's Peter Sutcliffe. As you can see, not a monstrous looking man. He drove trucks. And the whole premise for his crime was that he was allegedly on a mission from God, not like a blues brother, but like on a mission from God to kill prostitutes. Now, not all of his victims were prostitutes, but he did have a penchant for going to Leeds and Bradford in the red light districts there, because the victims were obviously quite high risk victims. They, low risk victims for him, high risk for them. And, he found it easier to pick up victims and nobody would really lose anything. And over the course of his career, for want of a better word, he murdered 13 women, and I believe 9 others he attacked and seriously injured, but he murdered 13 women. So that's quite a serious body count. Hiya, Evie. You're all right, sweetheart. Don't worry about it. Because one stiffed him out of money. I think he had many different excuses. There is, if you want to know more about Peter Sutcliffe, though, there is plenty of information out there. plenty of information. His modus operandi was that he would approach the women in the dark, obviously in the car or outside the car, but he used to approach them from behind with a hammer, and that was how he would murder them. So when he was during the course of the Ripper investigation, which went on for quite some time, Peter Sutcliffe was interviewed no less than 12 times by police investigating the serial killings. And good morning, Shimon, and wasn't caught in all that time. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to show you a side-by-side comparison of the photo fit from the victim and Peter. Thank you, Devils. Hiya, nice to see you. So that's a side-by-side comparison. So the main stick, his face was always on the news. Yeah, it was horrible, wasn't it? I was just saying it was quite scary towards the end of the late 70s, early 80s, like just before he was caught. It was quite frightening in the north of England. People were worried about going out on the streets, and part of the reason that it was more scary everywhere was because of this gentleman I'm going to mention now, which is not Peter Sutcliffe. Let's have a look. We're going to get the next page up. I don't know why PowerPoint has to have like 4 pages open or something for it to work. It's ridiculous. Right. This dude here. I'm sure you'll recognize him, but this is John Humble. John Humble tricked the police into thinking he was Jack the Ripper. He sent them a series of recordings and he sent them letters, and it was a cruel hoax. And in the meantime, while police were pursuing this false lead, Peter Sutcliffe killed 3 more women. Paul Humble, hi Mandy. Paul Humble never explained the entirety of like sort of the reason behind what he did. So he kind of torpedoed the inquiry. He sent it in a completely different direction. And he anonymously also, but in fairness, he did anonymously try and tell the police they'd been hoaxed. But because he'd sent it in and they were getting lots and lots of posts from everywhere, that letter was the one that got lost, ironically. I'm going to give you an example. During this time, there is a lot to suggest John Humble was a very unwell man himself. He tried to take his own life. He jumped from a bridge over the River Wear, which is in Sunderland, which is 19 miles from where I am, also in Newcastle. So it's about that distance. So everything's quite close together. And I'm going to read for you now a letter that he sent as part of this hoax campaign. And he sent it to Detective George Oldfield, who was leading the Ripper investigation at that time. Dear sir, I cannot give my name for obvious reasons. I am the Ripper. I've been dubbed a maniac by the press, but not you. You call me clever, and I am. You and your mates haven't a clue. That photo in the paper gave me fits, and that bit about killing myself, no chance. I've got things to do. My purpose is to rid the streets of them sluts. My one regret is that young lassie MacDonald did not know because she changed routine that night. Up to number 8 now, you say. 7, but remember Preston, 1975? Get about you now. You were right, I travelled a bit. You probably took me for in Sunderland. Don't bother, I'm not daft. Just posted a letter there on one of my trips. Not a bad place compared with Chapeltown and Manningham and other places. Warn whores to keep off the streets because I feel it coming on again. Sorry about young lassie. Yours respectfully, Jack the Ripper. Might write again later. I'm not sure the last one really deserved it. Whore's getting younger each time. Old slut next time, I hope. Huddersfield never again. Too small, close call last one. Hiya, K-Pink. Yeah, oh, you were there, right? You were late teen. I can imagine it was. absolutely terrifying. It was scary for everybody, let alone people who were in that direct area at the time. So this bloke here in his fit of unwellness, basically did this. So the prosecution, because he was prosecuted for this, for perverting the course of justice, he was sentenced to 8 years when he was ultimately caught, but he was only really caught because he was in a drunken state and confessed. The defence, who were representing him, had said he'd lived an inadequate life and he'd been driven to guilt by alcoholism. He was released in 2009 after serving only 4 years of his sentence, so he didn't serve his whole sentence, surprise, surprise. And Humble was given a new identity as John Samuel Anderson. However, in the 20th of August 2019, it was reported by Northumbria Police, which is my local police force, had said that Humble had died at his home in South Shields, which is on the coast, the northeast coast of England, and he died from heart failure and the effects of his alcoholism. Ended up dating a psychiatric nurse who worked with Sutcliffe. Right, okay, when he was finally arrested. We're going to talk about that in a second, I believe. So anyway, that was John Humble, and John Humble, he had a lot to answer for, but I think what gets reflected multiple times throughout this case, as I was looking at it, because I just had to refresh my memory because it's been a while, is that there's a lot of mental illness unchecked here, and a lot of people who are basically just going on regardless. This does not justify their actions, but it does help us understand the lack of support there. Right. So when Humble's actually said, when I phoned in to tell them it was me, and they took no notice, and 2 more people got killed. So he did try to tell them, but unfortunately that one went through. I would have gone and handed myself into the police station myself, but that, whatever. Okay. So the way that Sutcliffe, you're all right to jump in. Absolutely. You definitely had something to add there, because that was one of the things I brought up earlier, that feeling of fear. That I remember that, and I was very young, and I remember feeling frightened, like it was on the news, like that women had been warned to stay in the house. Yeah, absolutely. So on the 2nd of January 1981, Peter Sutcliffe was stopped by the police with a 24-year-old prostitute called Olivia Reevers in the driveway of the Light Trades house in Melbourne Avenue, Broomhill in Sheffield. Sorry, I always say Sheffield. So basically it was just a standard police stop check. He had a prostitute in the car, so he was soliciting. And he had false number plates when the policeman checked them. And that's what he ended up being taken in with. The next day, the police returned to the scene of the arrest and found a knife. But the policeman who arrested him noticed his physical characteristics matched that of the Ripper. How could you not, looking at the photo fit? And some odd behaviour when he told them he was going to the loo, and he hid a second knife. He had more than one knife on him. He dropped one at the scene of the arrest, and then he had another knife on his person as he went to the station. So, this is a very dangerous person. That's what you... I'm not a lot younger than you. I'm a little bit younger than you. So the police obtained a search warrant for his home, and they brought his wife in for questioning. And that's basically what happened there. And the rest is history. There's been bits and pieces. He tried an appeal, as I said earlier, in 2010. He tried an appeal. Didn't work for him. Yeah, it was scary. It absolutely was. Absolutely was. And he is a notorious serial killer case in the United Kingdom because we're such a small cluster of islands. And I apologise to Sunshine for saying United Kingdom. England, Ireland, Scotland, Wales. But that's the colloquial term for it. So if from this, we're such a tiny island, such a tiny couple of islands, these things are really magnified when you get serial killers, people like Dennis Nielsen, for instance. So, and also there's less places to hide because we're a small island with a large population. There's less places to conceal things than I think there is in the US. So it's harder to hide. So, but he was caught, and there we go. We know the beginning of his story. Well, not the beginning. There are books, plenty of books on Peter Sutcliffe's childhood, his upbringing. He almost made it into my previous video about the types of mothers that murderers have, because Peter was very close to his mother, and he had like this, he sainted her, like in his mind, she was the mother, the virgin, and she had an affair, and he caught her. And since then, he's kind of blamed her for that inadvertently. But he was very close to her. Your friend Pete and his partner stopped him in Scotland. He was acting suspicious, but nothing on him when he radioed. Yeah, he was clean as a whistle, I think, until I actually caught him. Good area being a lorry driver. Yes, it's like the is it the Highway of Tears in America, where all those girls have been found dead, and obviously it's a truck driving route. So, but I think there's been a few people who've like stopped people in the scene of a crime, and they've spoken to them, and then they've realised afterwards. So let's have a look at these lovely ladies. They're in order of name from left to right. So the first victim was Wilma McCann. She was 28 years old when Peter took her life. She lived in Leeds, and that was in October 1975. Emily Jackson. She was 42, Leeds, January 1976. Irene Richardson, 28 years old, February 1977. Patricia Atkinson, 32 years old, from Bradford, 1977. Jane MacDonald, 16, Leeds, June 1977. Jean Jordan, 21, Manchester, October 1977. Yvonne Pearson, 22, Bradford, January 1978. Helen Ritker, 18, Huddersfield, January 1978. Vera Millward, 41, Manchester Way, 1978. Josephine Whitaker, 19, Halifax, May 1979. Barbara Leach, 20, Bradford, September 1979. Marguerite Walls, I think it is, because it's spelled Marguerite. That would help Karen, wouldn't it, if you pronounced it correctly? Yes. 47, Leeds, August 1980. Jacqueline Hill, 20, Leeds, November 1980. And just so the ladies who he attacked aren't missed out, he attacked an unnamed woman who's never been disclosed in 1969. He attacked Anna Rogulski, 1975. Olive Smelt in 1975. Tracy Brown in 1975. Marcella Claxon in 1976. Marilyn Moore in 1977. Upadhyaya Bandara in 1980. Maureen Lee in 1980. And Teresa Sykes in 1980. So if he had killed everybody that he attempted to kill, his body count would have been a lot higher. It's only through luck that those lovely ladies survived. I was just thinking that he... Right. Okay. So, yeah, so that's basically that case. What I'm going to do for you now, though, bear with us a second, is I'm just going to play you a bit of that Muppet that impeded the investigation, who called himself Wayside Jack. Let me just find it. Bear with me a second. Because for people who are from the US and further afield, you will probably hear very little difference between his accent and mine. But for me, who lives in the northeast of England, I can tell exactly where he's from. Because they classified him as Geordie. Now, a Geordie is a person from Newcastle upon Tyne, where I'm from. I would be classified as Geordie. Evie would be classified as Geordie. But people who are from Sunderland are known as Mackhams, or sometimes Waysiders as well. And that is like a whole different accent to us. It's completely different. So let me find this video so you can have a listen.
I'm Jack.
Sorry I'm late. I heard someone needed help with some DIY. So, Mr. Shannonite. Good grief. Well, you know. Right, so I'm just going to make this bigger. Mr. Shannonite, behave. Right, and I'm just going to turn it up a bit and let you have a listen. This is the gentleman who was heading the investigation that's listening to the tape. This is part of what was released on television at the time, so it's standard definition. And every time I watch something in standard definition, I'm like, how did we watch that shit? We're so spoiled now. Not that my eyes work properly anyway, but still.
Jack, I see you are still having no luck catching me. I have the greatest respect for you, George. Good Lord. You are no nearer catching me now than 4 years ago when I started. I reckon your boys are letting you down, George. They can't be much good, can they? The only time they came near catching me was a few months back in Chapeltown when I was disturbed. I warned you in March that I'd strike again. Sorry it wasn't Bradford. I'm not quite sure when I'll strike again. But it will be definitely sometime this year. I'm not sure where. Maybe Manchester. I like it there. There's plenty of them knocking about. They never learn, do they, George? I bet you've warned them, but they never listen. Well, it's been nice chatting to you, George. Yours, Jack the Ripper.
Yours, Jack the Ripper. He was traumatized, absolutely. And people have had to apologize very recently because one of the detectives on the case had said that some of the women were innocent because some of them were prostitutes and some of them weren't. And this had to be apologized for, and rightly so. It doesn't matter if you're a prostitute. It is, after all, the oldest profession. Women have been having sex for money for thousands, like 1,000 years, you know, but yet there is still less value placed on the life of a girl who has to do that for a living, or actually sometimes enjoys doing that for a living. And that is not right. These women are still women. As far as we know, they're not hurting anybody. You know, they're just doing nothing. And it's exactly just hideous how sex workers are dismissed. It's not the only case you'll see it in. We see it all the time where it's not taken seriously because obviously some girls have a transient, women have a transient lifestyle if they're sex workers. But they are, you know, that doesn't mean that the law shouldn't listen to their friends and family when they tell them what they're seeing is out of character. That's where your clue is. It's where the clue always is. And I'm sure you have, and if like me, you have watched as much true crime, how many stories have you heard where somebody's got that kind of lifestyle and the family or a friend has gone to the police and gone, but it's not like her. She wouldn't leave her children. She wouldn't do this. She wouldn't do that. And they've had to insist and insist and insist to be listened to. And this is something that shouldn't happen. It's dismissive. And if somebody is telling you that somebody's doing something out of character, if somebody goes missing all the time and they go missing for weeks and they don't say anything, then nobody's going to really report that because they'll be used to that behaviour from that person. If they come to you and they're saying this, they don't do this, something's wrong, listen to them. Investigate it. That's what you're there for. Yep, that's somebody's daughter. That's likely somebody's mother, you know, somebody's sister, somebody's friend. So, yep, the oldest profession in the world. And these girls weren't, you know, treated with them going missing wasn't treated with seriousness. Their deaths weren't treated with seriousness. But looking back, the police force have now apologised for that on behalf of the officers that were involved, which is good because it's a step in the right direction. They call them the less dead. Wow. Yeah, that's a good point, Sharon. I never thought of that. how much press Ted Bundy gets compared to Gary Ridgway. He killed more, but they were prostitutes. Yeah, it's the same with Ed Kemper. Comparatively, the amount of people that he murdered, but because they were co-eds, so it's about time we started equalising the value on human life to that extent, because people are people, and everybody finds themselves in hard times and in different spaces. The only people I've got contempt for are people who are proven horrible people. That's it. So I wouldn't mess with, I'm not going to judge anybody who's a sex worker. There's a wonderful girl on TikTok I follow, and she's got what they call an OnlyFans, which is a great way to make money if you don't mind taking your kit off. Awesome. And she makes jokes about it all the time, but she's made a fortune from it. And she's been able to take our kid on holiday for the first time ever when she was a single mom, likely living on benefits. She's not said that, but I know she was skint, likely living on benefits. And now she can have a brilliant life for her daughter. She can buy her daughter new clothes, shoes, things like that, all because she's done that, because she's a beautiful red-haired girl and, she has the attributes. So why shouldn't she do that if she wants to? Thank you, Cindy Sue. Why shouldn't she do that if she wants to? That's up to her. It's her body, isn't it? Just saying. So that's just how I feel about it. As long as everybody's safe, or relatively safe, if it was up to me, it would be legal anyway, because that would keep people safer, but it's just me. I used to work as a beauty therapist. The clients were high-class escorts. Yeah, absolutely. Very professional. Very professional. I had a friend who was an escort, and she used to, because you have to go into all these high-class hotels, and of course you have to pass muster. So you have to go in very expensive clothing, be very well dressed, so you can get past, the security on the door and blag your way into the hotel and look the part. Very professional ladies. So that's Peter Sutcliffe in a nutshell, basically. It's a very shortened version of it. There is a lot more information online about him. So if you want to have a look, please feel free to have a rummage and find out more about it. I might have seen it. It's not ringing a bell, but Highway 20 does, but not the whole title. So I might have done. I can't say yes or no because the memory's just not coming in. The filing cabinet isn't what it was. You know what I'm saying? But I'll have a look at that just to check, because I thought that there's some true crime thing that's really fascinating that I've missed would bug me. Please do join us on Saturday. The live is scheduled. Thank you, K Pink. The live is scheduled. Please do come along. You will be welcome to come up on panel. I would invite it. Come up on the panel and let's talk about Christopher Lee Watts and what a liar he is, how many times he's changed his story, the variation in that, his continued torturing of the Rosette family from behind bars. Anybody who wants to come up and have a bash of Chris, please feel free, because I'm sick of the other kind of bashing, so let's have some of the right kind of bashing. Tomorrow, Saturday, yes. Thank you, K-Pink. So tomorrow, Saturday, we will be getting together. Please do come up. I will be putting a link and pinning it. Bear in mind, I can see you before you are allowed into the... Just in case anybody gets any ideas. If I don't know who you are, I don't recognise you, you're not getting in. It's not a democracy. We're there for a purpose. If your purpose doesn't suit mine, stay out the way. Just say it. Hop on the train or get off the tracks. You've had your say. Let other people have theirs. You've done a few panels. Yeah. So that's what it's for. It's for, we're going to even the score a bit, and we're going to say what we think about Chris and what Chris did. So I thought it would do people good to vent a little. Because I'd much rather, if I was going to do something quite negative, I would rather that it was about a convicted murderer. than a murder victim. That's just me. I'm glad you did as well. Hiya, Karen. Hello, sweetheart. Hope you're doing well. So that was basically it. That's Peter Sutcliffe. And it's a nice quick one. It's a Friday. I plan now to go and chill. I'm going to go and put my feet up with a very, very classy Pepsi Max cherry. And I'm going to watch some damn Netflix. So I'm going to watch some Netflix. I may even scroll through some TikTok. I have a really busy evening planned, but it is Friday and I need to now just go. If you want to, if you're definitely sure you want to come on panel tomorrow and you want to plan it ahead of time, if you email me at thecasbat@gmail.com and give us a quick blurb about who you are and what you want to say, blah, 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 I will send you a link before I go live so you can be on panel before we begin. And we can get acquainted with each other before we start. Yeah, that's an excellent example. No worries about that. No worries about that. I'm just going to pin that comment so everybody can see it just in case it gets lost in the chat. It's a really good comment. Yeah. Right. I'll have a look at that because it's a very good comment. Sex work is just work. I wish I were treated like that more. Have a great night. You as well, sweetheart. Everybody stay wonderful. Be good. Have fun. And just stay safe. And I will see you tomorrow. All right. Thank you very much for joining me. Bye-bye.